Okay, I'm sitting here with Kayla, and she was telling me, along with many of you, that because of the 4th of July weekend, people you weren't seeing or weren't getting my notifications to the last 2 videos that we put up, which was all about working in the garden over the 4th of July weekend. And we shared a lot of good tips. And so because Kayla nagged at me, we're doing this. We're just going to put them both together in one video. We will repost it as one singular video, so it will be long, you know, watch it in segments, but then you'll get a new notification and hopefully you'll know that it came through. So there you go. We're just trying to, I'm just trying to make life easier for you, Kayla.
And I appreciate it, Linda. Everybody can use a little bit of ease in this heat, right?
That's right. Well, hello, everybody. And well, let's just say thank you for your forbearance because our schedule has really been wacky lately. It is summertime. And so because of that, we're not staying on that same regimen quite as in such a disciplined way like we have in the past, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. But hopefully you guys are enjoying our content nevertheless. It's been a little bit unexpected. And that is what our video today is all about. Unexpected things. Unexpected little garden tour from an unexpected guest. Unexpected chores that we are doing in the garden, unexpected plantings maybe. Well, let's just say these are kind of unexpected things that I think might be fun and very valuable for us to contemplate right now in this kind of unexpected summer weather. So what do you say?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to show you an unexpected chore. We typically, or it's not necessarily a chore, I find it actually very, very cathartic. But here's how we're going to stage all of this today, I think. Our unexpected guests. So we have an unexpected guest who is going to take us to Japan, and that unexpected guest is Stuart's daughter, Julia. She is over there right now. She's been in Hiroshima, and she has some things to show us. And then maybe not too unexpected, but another guest is going to be my daughter-in-law, Taylor, who is going to share with us some of her entertaining tips and also give us a little bit of an update on her garden. And then we're going to kind of go back and forth, and I'm going to show you my own unexpected garden chores and garden things that are happening right now, starting with pruning my Annabel hydrangea. So this is, I guess, my plant in the spotlight right now, Annabel hydrangea or Hydrangea arborescens. So it has already bloomed in white. Stuart, if we can find one, we may not be able to find it handily, but if we can, let's put a picture of when it was in its full glory and the blooms were that very, very pure white that I really love. Right now, I've got lots of dried heads on here, most of which I've actually already cut back and given dried hydrangea bouquets to some friends of mine. But I want to cut it back some more, maybe by as much as a half to a third, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, because I want it to put out new growth before my garden tour in the fall. And I think it will do that, and it will also do that, hopefully, while I am gone. I'm going to be going to Ireland. Some of you may know that, and it can recover while I'm gone. So my uglies will take place in my absence. So I'm just going to cut some of these right now. And you'll notice that as I'm cutting them, by the way, Annabelles are also called smooth hydrangeas. They bloom on new wood. But I'm cutting these back because I want to expose the evergreens underneath them. They want and need more light, and I want them looking their best for the garden tour in October. And I will be sharing information in case you guys want to come and visit the cottage garden during that period of time. Okay, so I'm just cutting these back. Now, Typically, you cut these back in spring, and I did cut these back in spring, and I cut them back for a number of different reasons. One, I want more and larger blooms. Two, I want to control the size. And three, I want the stems that come out to be strong and a little bit more formidable so they can hold up the blooms. And I do that in spring, and you can definitely do that in late winter or spring. This is a tough plant, and it ain't gonna hurt it, I promise. But why I'm doing it now is I not only want to control its size and force it to flush out new growth, but as I said, I want to expose these shrubs underneath. So I've got some hollies, I've got some better boxwood underneath, and you can see that the areas of this touch of gold holly that were covered up by the hydrangea stems, see how it's reverted to green because it's not getting as much sun. And I want this to be kind of homogeneous in this beautiful gold color. So that's another reason that I am cutting it back, and because I want the whole effect to just be a little bit neater. So while I finish this up, why don't we take a tour and visit Hiroshima in Japan, the site of, I believe it was the #1 atomic bomb of 2, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, that were dropped on Japan in World War II. Right now, well, let's just say it's been transformed, and it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Julia, for capturing these incredible images. Okay, well, I'm back. Boy, that was long distance coming all the way back from Japan. But I'm back now with my Annabel hydrangeas. And you may be wondering, will this potentially force more blooms, or will I get a second flush of bloom? And I'm hoping that will be the case. It might especially be the case because we've had wetter than usual weather and a little bit more temperate weather than we typically do. So I'm hoping that I will get a second flush of bloom, albeit probably not nearly as dramatic as the first, and that's okay. I am okay with that. So you can see that I've exposed this holly. I've exposed these boxwoods. The other thing that I've exposed that is definitely in need of exposure, and that is this arborvitae that I planted earlier in the season. You can see that where it was not getting any light, it's all brown, and I will do some pruning on that later, but you can see what happens. And by the way, these turned brown because I did not water them enough, and then it turned very, very cold this winter. So you can see how this one that is exposed is starting to put out new foliage, and I think it'll be just fine in the long term. And by the way, this is really a lesson for me. My first inclination was to rip them out and put something in there that was perfect, and instead I am deciding to just be a little bit more patient. They are getting established after all this rain. They probably have a really good substantial root structure, and so I need to keep that in mind as well as what they look like on top. They should be just fine. I will continue to feed them over the course of the summer, and I think they will be the happier for it. The other thing I wanted to expose back in here, not so much my drip line, but I wanted to expose to a little bit more light, and that is an oak leaf hydrangea that I've got planted back here. And if it gets a little bit more light, it will get bigger, hopefully taller, and eventually will fill this kind of blank wall. Now, does it look a little bit ugly? Yes, it does. But that's okay, because it's going to be filling out and fluffing out in my absence, and when I come back, it should look considerably better, because at every place that I cut, at every leaf node right here, here's a good example of this, Stuart. Where I cut one, there are two. Can you see those two buds right there? You can see those two buds. So this will flush out. It will be more full. I've contained its growth, and it will be the happier for it. So it's kind of an unexpected garden chore to be doing in the middle of the summer, but because our weathers have been unexpectedly cool and mild, well, I think it's a chore that is worth getting out of the way. And it made a pretty little wreath over here on my fire pit out of these blooms. Somebody might be getting a dried hydrangea bouquet. Okay, everyone, all of you followers have been so helpful recently, and I really, really appreciate it, particularly as it relates to my question of the day. And my question of the day in a previous video was, should it stay or should it go in terms of this pumpkin that's coming up here? And because its leaf foliage was just so beautiful, I decided that maybe it needed to stay. And also my friend Kat, who is just brilliant, actually a couple of you, in addition to Kat, came up with this idea. And that was a way that I can keep the pumpkin, but that I can kind of discipline its growth. So I'll show you what I mean. And here we go. If this wasn't a brilliant solution to a problem, I don't know what is. And some of you, including my friend Kat, suggested that if there was enough clearance to push it underneath the fence line, and then it can cascade down this hill right here, which will eventually be a flower bed. And so I have, and I tell you, it has already perked up since I did that yesterday, and it should get more than enough light and have more than enough space to cascade over the wall, over this berm. Well, it's just a very unexpected and happy experience in the garden right now. Okay, so more input from you in something that I'm going to call, Linda, sometimes the obvious escapes you. And this really escaped me until one of you sharp-eyed followers pointed it out. And that is when I talked about planting a large holly right here, maybe a Nellie Stevens or an Oakland holly. One of you pointed out and said, yes, Linda, that's a great idea because it will cover up your trash cans then from the street. And that had not even occurred to me. I was thinking about just punctuating this flower bed. I didn't think about the brilliance of it also simultaneously hiding my trash cans. So like I say, sometimes the obvious and the expected escape me. Okay, so I've had another one of these kind of resin, though not necessarily, well, they're more lightweight than they would be if they were real stone, but they, nevertheless, they are pretty hefty, and they make great planters, as demonstrated by all of these begonias that I've got growing in this one right here. It's kind of a window box type planter. And these have performed so well that it gave me the idea, this is a thing one, thing two, that I needed to excavate the second one out of the garage, and when I say I mean Stuart, excavate it out of the garage because I am going to plant it with more begonias, not more of the same, but these beautiful begonias that I've got right here that right now are just in individual pots. And I've got 3 of them, and I think over the long haul, I think they'll be happier if I put them all in one planter that I then may set on top of there. Well, that kind of remains to be seen. But nevertheless, it's kind of an unexpected planting project that helps me use what I already have. And I'm really trying to do that this year. I'm really trying to not buy any new pots. I'm not in a mood to go shopping really, and so this will help me use what I already have, and maybe I will place it in an unexpected spot. Who knows? Okay, what is not unexpected by far is my passion for topiary. You all know this to be true, and this is also a very timely thing to be doing right now because garden centers are going to be putting, before too long, a lot of their shrubs and a lot of their plants on sale. This is a Green Mountain Boxwood. I paid $27, $26.98 for it. I got this at Lowe's, so I paid full price for it. But pretty soon, specimens like this, kind of not completely symmetrical, and some might even call it gangly specimens, will be on sale. So you guys be on the lookout for them because you can get a really inexpensive topiary out of this, or make a topiary out of this, that if you bought it in a topiary form would cost you a lot. Now this one appealed to me because it's got a strong central stem, which will make a second ball. And you can see that if I just prune this first category down, this first large ball down, then it will expose the second. Here is my sculptural medium that I am going to play with, starting with probably this large branch right here.
This one seems to lend itself to a double ball.
No, immediately. As soon as I saw it, and by the way, yes, this falls into the category of, Linda, you need another topiary like a hole in the head. But I could not resist its charm, and I could not resist its topiary potential. It was screaming at me. Just like my one garden bed was screaming at me to take it around the corner, this was screaming at me, Linda, you simply must transform me, show me some love, into a topiary. I mean, look at that. Look at how quickly it is starting to express its topiary form. And since right now, because of all the rain, Boxwood is still putting on new growth, I am going to exploit our rather unexpected weather and make a topiary. And someone had asked me about, for example, on these little Boxwood ball topiaries, how they transform into balls, and it's by constant clipping. That keeps them tight, it keeps them dense, and over time, with some of this kind of intentional shaping, they will turn into boxwood balls. You've also asked me so many times where to get these little pots, and I'm going to put up a link to Carolina Elizabeth's shop. She's a brilliant painter. She does beautiful pottery. She is an artiste, and I'll put those up. But you must follow her on Instagram, and her Instagram shop is in her Instagram profile. So, okay, look at that, Stuart. It's just a miracle. It's just a miracle. But I promise you, if I bought this in a current topiary form, that this will assume, by the end of the summer probably, I would spend considerably more than $26.98 for this. Okay, so at the top, I'll start doing this. The more I prune, the more it's going to thicken up and put out new growth. And it's again, I've said this a million times, it's a fun, meditative thing to do. So I have 2 questions of the day today. Maybe more. I have so many questions for you guys. You've been so helpful lately. So here's my question of the day. Are you somebody that maybe because you've been watching my channel, or maybe just because you've seen lots of topiary on Instagram, if you are somebody that has caught topiary fever? Because inquiring minds want to know. What do you think, Stuart?
Looking good.
Looking good.
Assuming it's warm.
Okay, so there you go. I'll keep pruning on this. And then once I get it potted up, I will show you what it looks like. But right now, Stuart, I want to show you one that I'd already been working on. Speaking of topiary, I still haven't worked on this bad boy to transform it into a topiary, and that might be something that I need to work on this week. This will be a fun job, but I just need to get to it. But I digress. Let's come around to the front to what I wanted to show you. Let's stroll by these incredible moon dance hydrangeas, which just are spectacular this year. Work our way to the front.
Go through the obstacle course.
Huh?
I said I'll go through the obstacle course.
Go through the obstacle course. Boy, I need to get my lawn mowed, but it's still a little bit wet, so I'm having to be patient. Okay, et voila. This is the other 2-ball topiary. Do you remember when we worked on it, Stuart? Do you guys out there remember when we worked on it? But this is what I mean, that the boxwood is still putting on all sorts of new growth, something that is typically slowed down this time of year, but again, because we've gotten so much rain. So this is a heritage, I believe it's a heritage, better boxwood, and I identified some potential that it had to transform itself into a topiary, and indeed it is. And I just keep clipping on this. And I would say by next spring, will it look like not an awkward topiary, but a really well-formed topiary? Yes, yes, I believe it will. And I am thrilled about that. Okay, I've got another question for you, and I'll meet you back in the backyard.
Look at all these bees, Linda. There's like 20 bees in this guy.
Oh, they have been incredible. In fact, Stuart, One thing very unexpected and very exciting was, and it was early, yesterday I saw the first monarch of the season. I think I may have just seen another monarch, and let me show you where they were. So many, I mean, the bees on this East Friesland salvia, just incredible. But where they have been equally as incredible, if not more so, is on this stand of white wedding hydrangeas. I mean, they have been, I mean, can you see them all over there?
Yeah.
Absolutely everywhere. And it was over here on some of this Verbena bonariensis near the butterfly candy, which is where I spotted that first monarch. So I think we might have, I am hoping for a really good monarch season. We've had tons of moths. We've had tons of those little, I think they're called flicker butterflies. I need to be as good as Carrie Wilson, the bug whisperer, in identifying my insects. But right now, let's just say I am very, very happy with how all of this is attracting all of that insect wildlife. Okay, another thing that I just keep clipping on is this kind of Charlie Brown Eugenia topiary. I repotted it into this urn yesterday, and I'm going to top it with something, mulch it with something, but it already is starting to look so much better, and I'll just keep pruning it and tip pruning it, and it should be full by the end of the summer. It doesn't look bad right now. But while I'm doing this, and while I'm making my way to the back with another question for you, why don't we take a visit to Denver? And my daughter-in-law, who is just a fantastic hostess, well, she's got some entertaining tips for us.
All right, girls, let's do a little video for Linda. Check out the backyard. Do you want to show everyone the backyard? All right. This is the back bed. You can see the hydrangeas are blooming. Everything is thriving. We've been doing lots of watering. This one hydrangea in the very back is struggling just a little bit because it just gets pounded with the sun. And then the Wagelia is having a little bit of a hard time too. There's Goose basking in the sun. Over here it looks good. We planted some bulbs. You can see some of those come up. And then we're thriving over here. My pumpkins are a little out of control. I need to get another trellis. But everything looks great.
I also wanted to share like my top 3 things for hosting a great party. These are the things that like are must-haves for me. And if I can have these 3 things, then I know that the party or gathering is gonna go off without a hitch. So the first thing is to always have either beverages or some type of food in any area that the guests are gathering, right? So if there's like a little sitting area that you know that guests are gonna be in, I highly suggest having, like, even if it's just little nuts or something for people to grab as they're like having conversation, there should always be something for people to snack on. You definitely want to always have like a beverage station or just beverages available, alcoholic and non-alcoholic versions. And so, yeah, that's like my number 1 tip is always have some type of grazing food wherever people are going to be gathering. My second tip for you is you have to create a good ambiance, right? That means having background music, light background music going on. The lighting needs to be good, right? I love candles, you know, making sure to dim the lights, having candles. So lighting, music, to me are very important when hosting a party. Now, number 3 is making sure to have like a nice flow, especially if you have like a small area that you're gathering in. Like this house is fairly small for a lot of people to be gathering in. And so you want to make sure that you have a good flow in place for everyone that's going to be here. So for example, I'm going to get rid of all of these chairs that are surrounding the table just so people can, you know, easily move around. The flow from the living room, I'll have some chairs for people to sit in, than just what's in there, just so people can gather in there. I want to have some chairs and things like that in the kitchen. Make sure it's open so that people can kind of hang out in there. And then I'm going to open these French doors that we have so that people can also move outside as they please. We have a nice big deck for people to gather on, lots of seating out there. So there's just lots of flow here. So those are my top 3 things for must-haves when hosting a party.
And I've got another question for you, but before we do that, I also have an answer for you. So many of you noticed the smok that I had on yesterday. I love this, and you asked where it came from. It came from World Market. We will put a link in the description box. It's so cute. I don't know if it's Frida, but it's got a Frida-esque kind of vibe to it. They also have some that I have a number of that are just these kind of Smok aprons that also, all of them I want to have pockets, that have pockets. And you guys have seen me wear them before. I think I've got one in kind of a gray. I've got one in a blue, I think. And these are great for working out in the yard because you can keep your cell phone in here. You can keep your clippers, and you can also do some harvesting of your veggies and put them into these pockets. So that's the answer for you. Now, here's the question for you. I've really tried to be better about interacting with Instagram because they're 2 different platforms, and it seems to me that I am always ignoring one or the other. But I love Instagram. It taps into a whole different vibe than YouTube does. So I would encourage you to follow me on Instagram. But recently I've been putting up lots and lots of posts and lots of stories, showcasing obviously the hydrangeas, showcasing these gorgeous red hues in the back, these sun patience, and how beautifully I think they resonate and amplify the colors in the pictures. So here's my question for you. What I am noticing anecdotally on my Instagram feed and stories is that the ones in the backyard tend to get a lot more engagement than the ones in the front yard, which is interesting to me. I don't know if it's because this is more like a living room, a living space, if it's because of the red, and maybe red is a call to action. I'm not sure, a call to action color. If it is a little bit, has more of a masculine vibe, If it's because it's an outdoor living room, patio, backyard space, and that's where most people are looking for ideas, or if just in general, though most people will say they like the colors in the front better, the backyard is what gets more engagement. So I just want your thoughts on that. Some of you have said, well, Linda, I'm surprised, but I like your backyard better than your front yard, even though I don't traditionally like red. And that would be at some times of year, probably the category that I fall into, because it's unexpected to me how much I love these vibrant tones, these vibrant reds in the backyard with this deep, deep gray. But let me know your thoughts on that. There's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. I am just curious if it's the front or the back that resonates with you more, or if it's kind of a seasonal thing. At one time of the year, it's the front, and another time of year, it's the back. But inquiring minds want to know, so you let me know. Well, now we're back at the potting bench doing some other chores that aren't necessarily unexpected, but that need to be done. And this is another one of those things that I want to do so that it can be responding while I'm gone, and hopefully will look better when I get back. So because of all of the rain that we've had, number one is operator error, and two is we've just had tons of rain earlier in the season. And I have these dragon wing begonias, dragon wing or angel wing, one of the two, and they've gotten so leggy, and there are signs of their being overwatered. The leaves are turning yellow and speckling, and they're growing tall and lanky. So I want this to really flush out again and maybe put on a second bloom and a second flush of leaves before the garden tour. So I am taking lots of cuttings and I'm putting them in water. And I'm being pretty aggressive about doing this. I've got another pot that I'm going to do the same to. I'm just putting this in water. But again, at the leaf node, where the leaf node meets the stem, it should put out new roots so that I can pot it up, and I will not only have a thicker, better performing plant here, but hopefully material for a second plant. This is another example of getting your uglies out of the way while you are on vacation. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It's been so fun. I hope you maybe learned a couple of things. But I want to leave you with one more expected touch for the garden, and that is poultry grit or chicken grit. In addition to using gravel to mulch my pots, I also like to use this chicken grit. You can get it at farmers' supply stores. I don't know if you can get it at home and garden centers or not, but I will put a link because you can get this online. And I love the way the color of this looks against these sweet, sweet pots. These pots are an investment, and I want them to look their best. So I am mulching this boxwood basil in this really fun, inexpensive chicken grit as an alternative to the larger scale gravel. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed all of these little unexpected chores, international visits, tips, guests, all sorts of things. So I hope the rest of your day is very, very unexpected and in a great way. Take care. Well, it is a very misty, wet, gray Saturday following the 4th of July, but it is perfect gardening weather. So I invite all of you to don an apron or some old clothes, an old sweatshirt, some old grubbies, and get out here in the garden with me because we're going to have lots of fun. Most importantly today, I want to make sure that I've got my clippers. Any kind of clippers will do, and I've got just an old dandelion weeder or something that I can poke some holes in this really receptive wet ground. It's just perfect gardening weather. As you can tell from all of these white wedding hydrangeas, I mean, look, I'm going to call this a white July because they have just, well, they are just showing off big time, as are all of the white things that I've got planted in the garden. I couldn't be more pleased, though I do think we're all going to start mildewing pretty soon. What's interesting is what is great for some things ain't so great for other things, and I'm going to show you what I am talking about in today's video. We are going to garden in some forgotten places. We're going to do a follow-up on the new bed that I want to plant on the east side of the fence. Thank you so much, all of you. You were so helpful. I just love reading your comments. You gave me some great ideas, and it was really valuable. So we're all in this together. So join me, and well, let's get grubby out in the garden. What do you say?
Let's do it.
So this is something that I practically never, ever do in July, but it has been so mild and rainy. It's been misting all morning. We had another good rain yesterday, and that is I am starting to transplant some of my blueberries. Now, another reason why I feel fairly confident in doing this right now is because blueberries are very shallow rooted, and they also take to container gardening. So I'm going to try to remedy one of the issues that I've had in the back in my raised beds, in that some of the stuff in there just hasn't done well. And these are, even though they put out, look at all the berries they put out. I've already harvested most of them. But despite the fact that they have been productive this year, they're not being optimized. They're not reaching their full potential because they're way too crowded in here, especially now that we've had so much rain and everything is so lush. So I got out my little sneed bore shovel where I can do some targeted digging. And now I am taking these, and if you want to follow along with me, I've got my phone in my pocket because the light right now is just incredible, and every opportunity I can get, I'm taking a snapshot of something that is just really being showcased in this beautiful light right now. So come on around to the back, and I'll show you where I'm going to put them. And then, oh my gosh, we have opened a can of worms. And by we, I mean me talking about starting a new garden along the fence. And oh my goodness, we are all thinking alike. I got so many great recommendations, some of which I'd already kind of been thinking about. We're going to talk a little bit about some of those kinds of things in the plant material that I think we might want to put in there. But boy, have we opened a can of worms. And I'm going to be thinking about it, planning about it, dreaming about it, but it will not be implemented until next fall, or this fall, I should say. So come into the backyard. Well, I don't know that polka dots have been part of my signature style in my wardrobe in the past, but definitely they're going to be a signature touch this summer thanks to Classy. So I was really getting sick of my wardrobe at this time of the summer. You guys might be getting a little sick of yours too, and Classy comes to the rescue because every month they come out with a new launch, and their new launch right now are these super cute, comfortable tops, most of which are in polka dot. Now this skirt is also theirs. So you know the deal about Classy. It really puts a stop to Brahma trauma. If you're like me, especially in the summer when it's hot and you're sweaty and you want to, comfort is a priority. The first thing you do is take off your bra when you get home because it's either scratchy or it's just too tight or it just doesn't look very good. So these pieces of clothing really come to the rescue. So right now, and what I love about these is it gives you different options, different color options, but also different strap options, whichever is the most flattering to you. This is probably my favorite. I've got it paired with this skirt from Classy. You can dress them up, you can dress them down. This one is in blue and white with this around the neck strap, but there are so many other ways you can wear them. So let's try a different look. Well, I love this brown and white. It's a little bit unexpected. Now you can dress this up a little bit more formally, even business attire. So I've got it styled here with some brown trousers, a little bit of a heel, and a blazer, which makes it work appropriate. But if you're going from day into night and you want something that's a little bit sexier for date night, then I think this top is really exceptional. It's got more of a traditional strap to it. If you are somebody like me that thinks arms can be kind of sexy, especially if they're kind of toned, then definitely this could be a look that's, well, it's just a little bit more romantic and perfect for a hot date night. Well, if you're going to a poolside dinner and you want something that's easy, breezy, and very summery, then the red and white polka dot I think might be for you. It's got a little bit more of a conservative neckline. I think it's very, very flattering though. And it's also a great opportunity to layer up. So you can throw maybe a white sweater over your shoulders or something just in case there's a cool breeze on a summer evening. Well, hardly anything makes it into my wardrobe if I can't also wear it out into the garden. And I think this black and white polka dot version is really summer chic and tray comfortable. It's also great because it can be layered. So if I get really, really hot, I can take off the upper layer. But if I want to protect my arms with something lightweight, a long sleeve shirt or something, then I can do that. Or if I want to be a little bit more modest, if I want to take off my boots and walk into town, switch out my boots for some tennies, then this might make it a little bit more restaurant appropriate. So I think it's really fun. This is the black and white version. If you guys feel inspired to incorporate some polka dot braless chic into your summer wardrobe, then just use the QR code here for 20% off your purchase and tell them that Linda and her polka dot sent you. Okay, so come on in, Stuart. And boy, this is a case where this quality of light makes all of these reds pop, especially to me, these kind of orangey reds in the sun passion and in the geraniums. So where I am going to plant these blueberries, and I've got one more in the front that I'm going to be digging up, is in this raised bed right here, because this stuff has just not really done well. I think that these have just gotten too much rain. I just think we have had too much moisture, and the stuff that I planted in here at the beginning of the season, I think it just, some of these things just drown. So I've got some dill in here right now, and I'm waiting for these flowers to dry into seeds, because dill is one thing you guys have been asking me is, what are the things that I missed from the other house? And one of them is I had lots of dill at my other house in the potager in the back, and I've really missed that. So I'm getting some seed, and probably this fall, I'm wanting it to start naturalizing a little bit in the front, but I digress. This is where I'm going to be planting those blueberries. And what's nice about this is it gets morning sun, and it gets a little bit of late afternoon sun, but during the hottest part of the day, it's a little bit protected, and it's a little bit cooler, and I think that it might be a good environment for these blueberries. Plus, I think they'll look kind of cool in here. The other thing is they're looking a little bit chlorotic because of all the rain. So when I put them in here, I can give them a really good feed. I can amend this soil a little bit. One thing I've noticed is that with all of the rain, the level of the soil has really, really sunken down, and I want to remedy that too. So I'll put some fresh compost in here. Boy, this dill smells incredible. It's also, by the way, one of my favorite cut flowers. So this is kind of a dill and blueberry project. I'm going to be working on this, and of course I'll show it to you once I get finished. But you can see how some of the things in here, they just haven't grown much. I had some lettuce in here, and it just got very hot, then it got very cold, and well, it just hasn't done much. So I'm gonna see what I can do. This is a case of 1, 2, 3, see which environment I'm willing to move things 3 times to see if I can really make them happy. And while these haven't been unhappy, I definitely think I can give them a better quality of life. So I've grabbed some pruners, but in the process of grabbing my pruners, Stuart asked me what this was. And this is actually a window, one of those latched windows, there's probably a specific name for them, on an old wooden boat, an old wooden Chris-Craft that my husband owned for years, and it finally fell into such disrepair it was really not worth the expense to fix it up anymore. But he kind of selectively kind of scavenged some of the really interesting things from the boat. This is one of them. That's mahogany around the rim, and definitely it needs to be refinished, and once it's been refinished, we'll have to do something interesting with that. I've got an idea in my head, but for right now, I just kind of like it as a garden ornament sitting there. So, and it is it should be fine outside. It is a boat piece after all. I'm going to be showing you a few more pieces off of that boat a little bit later, but I have changed the subject on you. So let's get back to our outdoor puttering. So there's a number of things that I'm cutting right now. One of them being some cuttings that I want to take now, thinking about the future. So in October, I am having a big a garden tour as a fundraiser for Oklahoma breast cancer research. And I'm doing that, so obviously for that garden tour, I want things to be really, really beautiful. It will be the first part of October, and of course I will let you know about tickets and all of that kind of thing. So what I'm wanting to do is start taking clippings of some things that I already have in my garden right now that can help me continue that color theme, that plant thematic throughout the back in other planters that I can then autumnalize a little bit. So what do I mean with all of that? And that is that here are some coleus cuttings that I took just a couple of weeks ago, and they've already started to take root just really, really aggressively. So what I'm doing is I'm just starting to take repeated cuttings as I deadhead over here. I'm taking repeated cuttings from the coleus that is in these 3 pots that also have heucherella and this beautiful limey carex. These pots have done exceptionally well, and I think it might be fun for the garden tour to have this entire plant stand just filled with maybe more of the same. Maybe adding some additional plantings to it, but it will just be really from one end to the other filled with all of this coleus, and I think it'll be really beautiful. And maybe I'll also stage some pumpkins in here in orange on this plant stand. So by taking more cuttings, which I did this morning, I've taken a bunch of cuttings here, I will just continue to do that throughout the course of the summer, and by October I will have tons and tons of plant material to put in pots that I can then completely fill this plant stand with and stage it with pumpkins. So that's one example of me already thinking about the future and what I want to do with those. So what else am I clipping? Well, this planter box over here, unlike these on this facade right here, these are doing really, really well in this box, and so I'm starting to clip some peppers. I've got some jalapenos here, and I've got my apron, so I can just drop these into my apron. I've got several jalapenos here. And what I used these in, one of the recipes was one that was up on my daughter-in-law, Mountain Millennial, on her Instagram page pretty recently. It was a corn salad. I've got a few tomatoes. I've got some cayenne peppers in both red and green. So even from a very, very small garden with raised beds, you can still get some stuff. And then I've got all sorts of oregano growing at the base that needs to be cut back. And I'm going to cut a bunch of this. I'm going to dry it. And then I'm going to make some marinara sauce, and I'll be using a lot of this in it. So I'm going to cut this back. Oh boy, is this fragrant. So I'll stick that in my pocket. I think later I'll come out and I will also clip some thyme, some lemon thyme. But here I've got a question of the day for you. So you may recall that I showed you where I had a pumpkin that had come up over here. I had one in the front, and now this one went to seed back here at the base of the olive tree. And it is, well, it's just so healthy that it kind of breaks my heart to pull it out. There are some flowers at the base. I don't know if they're male or female and would produce fruit or not. But here is my first question of the day. Should I tear it out or should I just let it go for a while? I could maybe selectively cut off some of the leaves so that it doesn't prevent light from getting into the things growing below it. So I guess that's my question of the day for you. That's number one. And then I've got some tomatoes over here. These are yellow plum tomatoes, I think. So I'll just clip a few of these, and I'm going to watch these. I'm going to add a little bit more soil to this. That's one thing about tomatoes. I could add soil all the way up to here, and it would probably just do nothing but improve their performance because it will put out roots at all of the junctures of the leafy branch against the stem. I've also got some kind of waterlogged, but I've got some basil in here. By the way, these are all boxwood basil seedlings, and if I so choose, I could pot all of these up. What I'm going to do right now with my clippers is I'm just going to keep clipping them back. Maybe I should save those little guys to toss into a salad or into my marinara sauce, because this was one of the questions one of you had. How do I make them round to turn into little boxwood balls? Well, it's because as they go vertical, you just continually prune them. It's true of the boxwood basil, and it's also true of this purple dome basil that I've got right here. Okay, so I'm showing you my uglies today, and one of the downsides of all this rain is this lavender that really has been flourishing. Heretofore, I really haven't had much success with lavender, but it was really flourishing. But now I'm starting to get some dieback along the edges, and it's because it's just getting too much water. So hopefully it won't spread to the entire plant. I'm just clipping it back. And this is not unpleasant work, you guys, because, oh my goodness. Can you smell it, Stuart?
I can smell it from here.
Yeah, you can smell it. So I'm going to save all of these and let it dry. And then when we have a fire outside, I will just toss it onto the fire. Right now, I'm just wanting to make this a little bit more presentable. It did some of this last year too, so I'm not too worried that it will kill the whole plant. But lavender really is a drought, as you guys know, it's a drought tolerant plant, and it just doesn't like all of this rain that we've been having. And by the way, is it not tragic what has been happening along the Guadalupe River in Texas and the missing people? I just, oh my goodness, it just breaks my heart, and the heartache that the parents must be feeling, really, that everyone down there must be feeling, is so tragic. And I want you to know that we are thinking about you, and it's on the minds of those of us who are in your neighboring state. So I'm going to keep clipping that, clip out all of this dead stuff. Again, just to make it a little bit more presentable. I'll let it dry out here, and then I'll toss it on a fire because it really, really is fragrant. And I want to put even the stuff that's not happy to good use. So I will do that. It can dry right there. Something else that I am pruning, as long as I've got my clippers out, is, you may recall that I did lots of clipping. I took lots of cuttings on this Pure Joy sedum, and I'm continually taking more. This whole tuft right here is from a tuft that I started in the spring. All of that just came from some things I stuck in the ground in the spring. All of this has come up and has transformed into a plant from some cuttings that I just took about a month ago. So what I'm trying to do is kind of camouflage this rim around the brick patio. I want it to kind of cascade over in this kind of characteristic blue-gray. And I also want to cover up this drip line right here. So Stuart, show them some pretties, and I'll be right back. And this is as easy as just taking anything, I've showed you this before, just taking anything and poking it in the ground through the gravel. And now's a perfect time to do it because the soil is just so moist. I just remove some of the lower leaves, stick it in there. Magic, et voila. And then I'm going to show you a really fun project that I'm kind of excited about, gardening in the forgotten places, kind of in the alley. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing this, and you'll see that pretty soon this will fill out and it will hide all of this drip line. And when I will love it even more is in the spring when it comes out in those just wonderful tidy mounds. So I'm just going to keep doing that all along here, and pretty soon it will be very uniform. It will cover that up entirely, and I'll have this nice border over here. I'll add a little bit more in this section, and I think I'll be really, really happy because it will hide some of my other uglies from the drip line. Now here's a tip. One way I think to keep your garden from looking cluttered and a little bit messy is doing those kinds of things. It's hiding things like your drip line, it's hiding metal edging, it's hiding that kind of stuff, because then it just doesn't draw your eye and say, oh, I am not a plant in the garden, I am something here to help the plants. And I want all of this to just be this kind of continuous border along here, and that will, I think, make the entire area look a little bit less cluttered and a little bit more thought out. So when we come back, I'm going to show you something that I'm thinking about for the alley. Okay, so I've got these sweet, sweet pots of boxwood basil here en route to the alley. I thought I would show you what I mean by clipping them. So I just keep clipping off the larger leaves at the top, and here I'm clipping it off because some of this is even starting to go to flower, and I don't want it to do that. The more I clip, the more it will start turning into this ball shape. And before too long, I'm going to have 3 sweet, dear little tufts of boxwood basil, tiny boxwood basil balls in these tiny pots. Now I want to show you something in the alley that I am also doing. So what do you say, Stuart? And here we are in the alley. Now, I've been talking a lot about gardening in the forgotten places, and this was I guess my forgotten place number 1, and it may not look like it, but I've had a little bit of progress here in thinking about what I want to do to beautify it a little bit. Some of us are making attempts in the alley to make it a little bit more appealing, and the second benefit of that for me is it gives me more room to garden things that I can't grow in front, and that I also give them and myself permission for it to look ratty at certain times of year. So one thing that I want to do is this whole area that we walk by when we go into the backyard, this whole area, I really want to beautify it a little bit. This is where my husband has some not real valuable but sentimental rocks and excavation finds that he treasures. They are Hub's treasures, and I want to showcase them a little bit so they don't just look kind of like a pile of rocks or whatever. So this is the vibe that I've gotten started. So this was actually given to me by one of you, a follower, and I planted it out here, and it's doing really well because we've had so much rain. Now, I also have a lot of this. This is Transplanting pallida. You may know it as Purple Heart, though this is a green variety. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant this whole area in here with this, some of my Sedum Autumn Joy and more of that Pure Joy, and this whole area, which gets pretty baked, will eventually be filled with all of these gray colors, these gray plants that, by the way, will all be free because I am just taking them from other plants in my landscape. And I can do a little bit of weeding here, and you can see some I can't penetrate. This has some just rock and gravel, but it doesn't seem to be deterring the preventing this purple or green heart from growing in this area. So I am just going to do the same thing, and I am just going to continue while the temperatures, now I could do this even in the heat of summer because these are succulents after all, but by doing them now when it's rainy and moist, it will make these even that much more successful. So this is what I'm going to do here. So this is gardening in a forgotten place with free plants, and pretty soon this whole area won't feel as if it's so forgotten anymore. The other benefit to this is that these orange bloomers, and I'm not sure what this is. Here's another question. Is this like a tick seed coreopsis or what is it? It's going to go to seed, and it's going to continue to go to seed, and then it will begin to flower in between all of this Transplanting. And so pretty soon I'll have this gray and orange, tough as nails, little vignette growing here in the alley. And once it gets complete. I didn't get that. Could you try again? That was Siri asking me if she didn't get that, can I try again? So in short order, I'm going to be able to fill this entire forgotten place up. I didn't get that. Could you try again? Oh, Siri, I'm not sure what's going on with you, but never mind. Okay. So there we go. Then I'm going to take these scraps and show you what I'm doing with them when we come back. Okay, so let's call this segment It's New to Me. I went to, I think I went to Lowe's the other day, and I needed to get some gravel or something. And I'm really not buying a whole lot of plants, for obvious reasons. I don't really need any more. But I was absolutely captivated by this form. It's a variety of Russian sage, and it is called Little Spire Russian Sage. I love its density. I love this hint of purple right here, which really repeats so much of what I've got going on in the garden. Looky here. It's beautiful in this white basket as a companion to this Scaviola. But I think it's really, really fun, and it will be drought tolerant. I put it in a pot simply because I'm not sure where I want it to have a permanent place in the landscape, and I'll just keep it in a pot until this fall. It should be able to handle pot culture just fine until then. But here, Stuart, let's get a picture of my very, very dirty plant tag, Little Spire Russian Sage. And before we move on, I'm going to continue all of this business and some more sedums and things all up in here, in and around this rotting trunk of this old hackberry tree. And pretty soon this will be completely covered in gray and it will look pretty intentional. You may recall that earlier I also sprinkled some forget-me-not seeds in here, and I've seen a couple of them germinate. So in the spring, who knows, I may or may not have little forget-me-nots. It's a gardening risk I decided to take. So along here, in this very unpresentable area, you can see that I've had some success with minimal effort at all at getting some of the larkspur to go to seed. So what I'm going to be doing with lots of the cuttings of my Minoan lace, of some of my foxglove and things like that, is when I cut the stalks off that have dry seeds on them, I'm just going to lay them in this area and hopefully some of them will go to seed. I'm not that invested in it. If it performs, it performs. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it is, again, a gardening risk worth taking. Ultimately, I think it will be successful. And here's evidence of a couple of things. So right here, I've got some celosia that I threw in here, and it's coming up. And then this area in here, well, I'm just taking weeds, some of my clippings. Periodically, I come out here and I just do this. And I'm going to let this all kind of compost in place. When it breaks down enough, I'll turn it over, and then this whole area, the soil will be improved. Actually, what I have noticed in digging in here is the quality of this soil is pretty good. It hasn't been cultivated. It's just been here with debris from the alley just kind of rotting along the edge. So ultimately, I'm thinking that I can get this a little bit more cultivated. I'm not going to be planning on watering a lot. It will just be a health strip that has to survive on its own, but I'm excited about the prospect. Part of that, again, is because we've had an inordinately wet year, and so I'm more optimistic than I would be normally, but I'm going to take advantage of these wet conditions and my optimism to maybe bring something to life. Stuart thinks that's funny. Okay. Yeah, because I'm not always optimistic this time of year. Okay, you can see that there's some more of that Tradescantia that I've planted in here. I'm going to be planting it all around in here. And then some kids came over the other day and they had some aloe cuttings, and they brought it to me, and some of it had a few roots on it. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to stick it over in here. And at first I didn't think it was doing anything, but in the past couple of days, this that had previously been brown is greening up. You can see some of it in there too. Now, this is not frost hardy, and probably it will only make it through the year, but I think it's kind of a fun thing to contemplate. The other thing is, it's just fun for me to periodically in the afternoon when I don't know what to do with myself, I can just come out here, and anything that happens is a success. Anything that will happily go to seed of just some extra seed packs that I had that I just threw out here. If anything happens to them, I am thrilled. Likewise, I am thrilled to have a place to throw some of my plants that have died, knowing that they will break down and ultimately become compost in this area, improving the quality of the soil. I might even plant some daffodils or something in here. So this is an area in a forgotten place that I am definitely trying to turn into something that's not forgotten, but that is loved in the future. When we come back, I'm going to show you a few other things. Okay, so this is that can of worms you guys helped me open up. I blame you as much as myself, because I think we all collectively decided, and what's interesting to me is we were practically all in unanimity over what we think needs to be done with this space. I was amazed. Thank you so much for your input. It's really been valuable. So I want to kind of repeat a version of what I've got going up there, not with exactly the same plant materials, but in that really beautiful green and white. And so I'm going to continue that here. And one thing that you observed about the same time I observed it was this is obviously on a slope. Now, I do not mow this. The guys come once a week and they just use a weed eater to take down the grass. You'll notice that it's not very thick, that over here I barely have any grass at all. So I decided, with your help, that I could then just remove this grass and convert this whole section into a garden bed, and that's my plan. So I won't execute the plan until the fall, but I'm going to start working on it now. And here's how I'm going to start. I'll get Kayla over here and we will start probably putting down some black plastic or something. I may give it a shot of really strong horticultural vinegar to try to kill out this Bermuda, but we are going to cover this up and let it just solar bake and hopefully kill most of the roots. And then we'll come back later, because Bermuda can just be so relentless. We'll come back later and we'll probably address it again at another point in time. Then we'll amend this soil and we'll transform this whole space into a garden bed, repeating the colors that we had up there. So how I think I'm going to do it, and I reserve the right to change my mind, is that I think I've got kind of a bed down there by those steps, and I'm going to put a bed here, and I'm going to incorporate this into the bed. And that bed will be a natural place to start because it's at the end of the fence and as the gate comes into the backyard. So I will use a mirror image of the bed line down there and bring this in, and then this will be part of the bed. Now, and I'm sorry I took a screenshot of it. I can't remember the name of the person who said, Linda, here's what I would do maybe. I would plant bigger specimens of these hollies here and maybe one in the middle. And then, so as not to, I loved this, hurt their feelings, hurt these little guys' feelings, transplant them someplace else. And I thought that was so dear. And probably if it weren't for the expense and the fact that right now these guys are really starting to put on lots of new growth and do really well, I would probably do that. But because of the expense and because I want to give these guys a chance, I think I'm just going to leave them in place. And so we will convert this whole section, which is really too steep and treacherous to cultivate and prune and mow too much anyway, into a bed. And here's my thinking at this point in time, thanks to so much really great input from you. And pretty universally, I think there were maybe only 2 out of over 100 responses about what to do with this. 1, 2, or 3, or A, B, or C, as Stuart snarkily pointed out. Pretty much it was universal to go with number 3 or C, and really make this another flower bed to kind of mimic the one up there. And so I'm going to do that with deep green plants. And by the way, because I not only want to not mow this right here because it's on kind of a treacherous slope, I'm also not going to want to prune it because it's kind of on a treacherous slope, or at least not have to prune it more than once a year. So whatever I put in here, I really want to be low maintenance. So I'm thinking a combination of boxwood, maybe another couple more hollies. Hi guys, happy 4th. Another couple more hollies and some more shrubs that all bloom in green and white. And on that list would include better boxwood, more hollies, a few white hydrangeas, some maybe Radiance or Miss Lemon Abelia because of the white and green variegation in those. I'm thinking about some bridal wreath spirea, an old-fashioned plant, but I think something that could really, really be beautiful. And I can't remember, there are a couple of other things on that list too that I think could be kind of fun. I don't think I'm going to go with encore azaleas, white encore azaleas, though they would be beautiful, because this is probably going to only get drip irrigation. It's going to have perfect exposure because it will face east and get afternoon shade. And well, I think it's something that we could just really, between all of us, we could transform into something beautiful. Maybe I'll even plant some Winston Churchill daffodils or something along here in white so that I've got this kind of white and green thematic going all year round. So I think that's going to be fun. Now, since that part of the garden told me what to do here, this part of the garden, even before it's here, is bossing me around and telling me what to do around the corner. And that is, why stop here, Linda, if you're wanting to make the alley more presentable as you turn the corner? Why not do the same here? And so in here, I will probably repeat some version of what's on that side. And I think it could be really, really beautiful. I think when you're coming from north to south down this street, I think this will be impactful and it will make the whole thing look more complete and more finished. I was so intent on getting the front yard and the backyard done when I first moved in that this was really an afterthought. Well, it is an afterthought no longer, but I do want you guys to be thinking about it right now. Tell me what your thoughts are on continuing this whole thematic around the corner. Okay, as long as I've got my clippers out, I'm going to start clipping some other things that have gone to seed, like this golden feverfew. Some of this, I will save some of that seed. The rest of it, I'm just going to toss in that garden in the forgotten place. I'm going to have to come up with a different name for that, the alley garden maybe. So you can see here that some of this golden feverfew seed has dried. This is really precious seed. I'm going to send some to my friend John. I actually sent some to, as a kind of a little thank you to Bunny Williams last week. So I'm going to tend to that, and then I'm going to look over here along Autumn's Edge, thinking about the future, because Autumn's Edge is when this should be really spectacular for that garden tour that I'm going to have in October. So I've been feeding some of this lantana, which will eventually bloom, and like this, begin to cascade over the edge. One thing I want to point out that I just kind of noticed this year was these apple blossom roses are so low maintenance, because what I've decided to let them do is I don't even really deadhead them, and yet they still pump out new buds. And what I'm also hoping they will do is, I am not deadheading them, but because I want them to start putting on some pretty rose hips that will be orange in the fall when I have my garden tour. At least that's what I'm thinking. So whether or not it cooperates, I don't know, but it is something that might be a possibility. The other thing is I wanted to give you an update on this sedum right here, because look, remember, Stuart, when I just added some of this here? And look at all of that. That's going to be a whole new plant in short order. And by next spring, you won't even been able to tell that it was something I just stuck in the ground. Same here. So what I might do is start taking some clippings from this. Look, it's getting ready to bloom. Take some clippings from this, and I might put some of this in the, let's call it the stumpery. We'll call it the stumpery and the rockery. And you can see there's more of it here. So I can cut it off right here, get this to fill out after it blooms, and just spread the love. Free plants, free plants. So by October, the obsessions will be resplendent. The apple blossom roses, I'll give them another feed. They will continue to be blooming in pink, Remember, pink for breast cancer research, in pink. These will be blooming, and I think it'll be really, really beautiful. And then I will selectively pluck in, plop in, whatever the expression is, some different really sweet pumpkins, maybe in white and kind of pink. So we shall see. But always think about the future as you're thinking about the present. That's one thing that I have learned, especially this year. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's been fun. It's cool. Stuart hasn't even been complaining about mosquitoes too much. And it seems like it's been a long time since I've really done tons of stuff in the garden. We've been a lot of different places, and well, I am just feeling happy to be back where I think I belong. You guys have a great Saturday. We'll see you tomorrow.